Here on the State of the Nation, we're going to be kicking off with a new section, a new sector, a new show that we hope will really grab the attention of people. And it's our Political Insiders show. We have a contributor, somebody who's been inside politics, knows how it works, still speaks to politicians, a former member of the Tshwane Municipal Council, campaigns manager and treasurer, formerly of Action SA, and recently resigned, and that's Kuhle Nkamani. Kuhle, welcome to the State of the Nation.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much. Your introduction, you introduced me like a wrestler,
Yeah, you got to come running in. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and greetings to our guests that are watching at home.
Yeah. Now, for the people that are joining us for the first time, the intention of this show is you sometimes know what's going on in the inside, behind the headlines, and we're going to go into some of the issues of the day, issues of the week, cover them hopefully, and I'm sure this is going to be fascinating for everybody that watches it, and fascinating for you and I that really keep a very close eye on politics. But before we start, that's not the only thing that we're doing on the State of the Nation. We're also doing a State of the Nation business breakfast, which is how the State of the Nation started. So if you're a company out there that wants to get information, or even individual that wants to get information, that wants to hear some of our best guests, we've got our first business breakfast of the year lined up for the 27th of February at the Sandton Convention Centre, where we'll have Prince Mashele and Davy Root, two of our most popular contributors, one talking largely about the political situation in South Africa and what to look forward to, and then Davy Root, the renowned economist, who will be looking at the South African economy and what that holds. More information will be in the description below, but come and join us, have a good breakfast, bring some of your clients, and get some insights. But today it's all about being on the inside of politics. Quickly, let's start off with education. It's been the hot point. We've just recently had the announcement of matric results, the new year starting out. Bella Act is in place. Tell us about education.
Well, Mike, every January we've got, posh politicians arriving, celebrating matric results and congratulating students. But Mike, here's the reality. 337,000 students got bachelor's pass, right? Which means they qualify for further tertiary education. So there are only 202,000 spots available in the whole country. And that is including University of Technologies, Mike. So University of Technologies tend to have diplomas. Now, someone has got to ask the question, Mike, before we even delve even deeper into the topic. We've got a higher certificate pass, you've got a diploma pass, you've got a bachelor's pass. Now, the bachelor's pass students tend to also take from the diploma qualifications, which means you end up having an exodus of the diploma and the higher certificate pass students, including those bachelor pass students that did not make it into tertiary education, being excluded from actually participating in tertiary education, which is creating a huge danger when it comes to unemployment. Because I, for one, believe that our current education system is not shaping students that are capable to cope in the fifth industrial revolution. Mike, I listen to people talking about 4IR, but do people know that we're actually on the fifth? The world is actually aiming for the fifth industrial revolution, right? And we don't actually work hard to promote, we don't actually promote STEM subjects the way we should. We really should start promoting STEM subjects. I mean, I was looking at NSFAS. In the year 2023, NSFAS made a loss of 47 billion rand. Imagine how much taxpayers' money that is. That could be used to actually build up universities. Now, Mike, there's a huge issue in our education system. The education system is creating a bunch of students that actually end up burdening the system in future, because there's no employment and there is no direction that also directs kids or students while they are still in school to say you should follow STEM subjects or you should go into a particular career. So the problem is NSFAS is a bottomless pit that uses taxpayers' money, let's be honest, and funds every qualification that's out there. And the reality is, as South Africans, we're at a point where the qualification that you like as an individual, you say, when people say, oh, this is what I like, unfortunately, our economy does not support that. You actually need to do what the economy wants. What are the scarce skills in the economy? Those are the qualifications that we should be prioritizing. Those are the qualifications that NSFAS should be funding to alleviate pressure, financial pressure on itself, actually. Because you've got a NSFAS that changed from a loan system, right, to a free-for-all, basically, for those that qualify. And funny thing, Mike, I actually got a message this past week from a parent who tells me that their daughter got 6 distinctions and failed to get a spot at UCT, and says that to study medicine, but says that there are people from previously disadvantaged backgrounds with 3 or 2 distinctions that got in. Now, Mike, don't get me wrong. I'm not against previously disadvantaged people. I myself, or my parents rather, came from that situation. So I could never be against. But what I am against is excluding critical people from this economy, which is the middle class, from participating in the economy. I mean, Mike, you've got to ask yourself, this is a parent that is a taxpayer, number one. This is a parent that is going to pay school fees out of their own pocket, It's not going to use NSFAS. Their child actually qualifies. But because university stipulates that these are the amount of students that we're going to take from a certain category. And Mike, funny enough, in the past, we used to see this happening only to white people. I'll be honest, where there were certain categories where you'd say that, okay, look, we'll chop a certain number. Okay, we're forced to have a certain number of black people coming into a certain faculty, And as black people, we used to celebrate, we used to think, great, now we're getting into these spaces. But what we forgot and what we missed was that this would come to bite the black middle class. Because now there's a difference between the black middle class that can afford and the black disadvantaged that can't afford. Which now the black middle class says, it seems like you constantly keep on prioritizing these guys by giving them everything free for all, and we are the ones that face the burden by constantly paying higher taxes. There's no tax break for us, and we end up suffering the most. Let's just be honest. So this education system, Mike, who is it really working for? Let's just be honest. It's not working to build the future of South Africa.
Yeah, I suppose it's suffering from our obsession with looking backwards instead of looking forwards. Mm-hmm. We should be building more universities, more schools. Instead, we're worrying about divvying up the ones that we inherited from apartheid.
True, Mike.
Instead of building for the future.
Look at South Africa. We've got 26 public universities, right? And then you look at the UK, prime example. They've got over 80 public universities. And they've got a population similar to ours, neck and neck, And you look at the point that you've got 26 now. Ask yourself, what happens to the rest, Mike? There's that big question of what really happens to the rest. I know people, Mike, that have told me about particular schools where, and this goes back to my whole fuss with subjects that children take and actually what are we producing. Because if you actually go and dissect those matric numbers, you will find that less than 50% of people that write matric actually do pure maths. It's actually less than 40, right? You ask yourself, how do you build an economy with people that are not doing maths? How do you build an economy with people that don't take physics? How do you build an economy with people that don't take accounting? That's the real question, man. Because you look at the Indias of this world, the Chinas of this world, they are heavily focused on STEM subjects and making sure that you actually are channeled along that path. And I feel like we've got a society that has become too calm, and a society that is used to freebies and likes the easy way of life. And actually, we won't go anywhere with the easy way of life.
Yeah. Well, everybody just needs to go and have a look at what Vietnam did. That's possibly the best example where they really focused on STEM, and that's science, technology, economics, and maths. Is that right? And those are the core basis of what they offer, and that economy has absolutely rocketed, probably the best performing economy in the world. Why? Because their politics is no longer run by ideologues, but it's run by people that live in the real world. While we talk about politics, we've got to talk about political consolidation. It's happening. Tell us about your take on political consolidations.
Mike, the future of South African politics is based off consolidation. And that is for the new parties. That means excluding ANC and the DA. Mike, here's a real insider's take. You know, recently, this past week, we saw Forum for Service Delivery and Action SA coming together. Now, here's the story that the public don't know. Forum for Service Delivery is led by a chap called Dr. Kekana, right? Dr. Kekana actually agreed, or actually proposed the idea, rather, to Herman Mashaba. And the reason behind it, right, has got really nothing to do with, oh, we can work well together. The reason behind it, from what I'm hearing, was a financial issue. He could no longer afford to keep Forum for Service Delivery running because funders are tired of funding many splinters, right? So just come together, build one thing. He says he could not afford. And another thing that I've heard about the story was when he approached Herman Mashaba, the first offer on the table was be the deputy national chairperson. And he refused. And I think that has to do with Michael Beaumont. Michael wanted to actually have, Dr. Kekana under his wing and control. Hence, most of the positions that he got offered were deputy because they said, okay, what about deputy treasurer? He said no. And then the last resort, I think he said, what, can't we create an SG's office? This is purely what I heard. They refused. They did not want to give him his own separate office. And then they said, come in as deputy president. Interesting thing was, Musi Maimane, from yet again what I'm hearing, actually tried to counter Herman Mashaba by offering Dr. Kekana the same contract to join BOSA with the same deal, same salary, it was actually a carbon copy of contracts, from what I'm hearing. So, outside of the goodness, and they make it seem like it's the whatever coming together to challenge the ANC. No, Mike, it's really not that. It's really a bunch of funders saying, just come together. We're tired of funding individual splinters. Come together. Let's see what we can do. We have seen good Rise Mzansi and BOSA also speaking about joining Action SA. But now, here's the interesting question, Mike. What happens to this chap called Dr. Kekana, who's the deputy president? Because I can already see Musi and Songezo Zibi saying, he's not in parliament, so you expect us to serve below him. You expect us to bring our parties and serve below a guy who, let's just be honest, got parachuted to deputy president. So Dr. Kekana, wherever he is, he must know that he will be the first casualty if this amalgamation really does go through. And the way this amalgamation is going to happen, now hold me on record when I tell you, if this amalgamation manages to meet before 2026 local government elections, the identity of these parties will still exist. But what will happen is there will be a new party created. The possible name for this party, you're hearing it here, could be Reform South Africa. That is the possible name. And what will happen is people will have dual membership. But now here's the issue, Mike. What do you say to people that had political aspirations in their individual parties that I will run for mayor and possibly I can be an MMC or whatever, in local government? Because now you're coming together. That means they must be space made, Because already in Action SA, you will see with this Dr. Kekana move, there will be councillors that will resign. I've said this before. Even after this happened, I've I said to them, guys, get ready. Expect about 3 councillors in Joburg to resign. Expect about 2
Councillors from where?
from Action SA to resign. Expect about 2, same in Tshwane, to resign. And Dr. Kakana is going to bring in his own people because he claims that he will bring intelligent people. I heard that he also approached Colleen Makubela, but Colleen refused. She says she's happy in the Mkhonto Wesizwe party. He has also approached a couple of people in Tshwane that I have worked with. They seem like they also have refused. And people that were high-ranking officials in government departments, by the way, they've refused to come on board. So this coalition, unfortunately, does not seem like it has got. It does not seem like it has grabbed, the attention of those that are sitting on the outside, So I highly doubt that this amalgamation will have political mileage, because that's an important thing, Mike. That from whatever you're building, does it have political mileage to still garner votes? Let's be honest, the only party out of these 4 that has got support is Action SA. The rest are dead, in context, really. I mean, many people know Musi, but they don't know his party. We all know Musi, but we don't know his party. And the fact of the reality is, Mike, South African politics has shown parties that are created out of anger, and those are splinter parties, don't last. You can go to the EFF. The EFF is on its deathbed. It's in ICU. It won't be resuscitated, no matter what happens, Julius has killed the party with his own hands. You look at MK. Mike, that thing won't last long. I'm telling you from what I've seen. People are fighting inside. The youth of MK is totally against Floyd Shivambu. KZN on its own, mind you, I do stay in KZN, for those that don't know. They keep telling me that they are so pissed when it comes to Floyd Shivambu, and they want to see his backside. They don't want him at all. So it does not surprise me when there are talks of Floyd being sort of restructured or being fired, because those pushes are happening, So it goes back to the point when I say that parties that are created out of anger, Mike, your Action SAs, your Bosas, your Rise Mzansi, these parties don't last. You look at Good Party. These were not parties that were created in the interest of people. People must not get that wrong. These were parties that were created because people realized, oh shoot, I don't have a job because I fought where I am currently. And, the thing with politics in South Africa, people don't think of going to start businesses, or let me get into mining. Let me get into, civil engineering. The first thing when you leave a political party is, which party are you going to? The same question they asked me. They say, where are you going to? And I said, but there's more to life than just, this. So the problem is you've got career politicians who start splinter parties to make money. Because let's be honest, one seat makes money on its own. People don't know that City of Tshwane, we passed a budget back in 2023 that said there was 100 million rand that was dedicated to parties in council, which was going to be divided each year. So this is a money-making scheme at the end of the day, Mike.
It's a business.
Yeah.
And now, quickly, that you've left a vision in our minds that we'll never get rid of, and that's seeing the backside of Floyd Shivambu. Let's stay with the Mkhonto Wesizwe, because they had their treasurer resign.
Mike, the treasurer resigning, Dr. Mtanti, is an interesting one, Mike. Dr. Mtanti is a lecturer also at UCT, right? And it goes back to when I say communism is being fed at institutions, I think that one needs to be honest. Dr. Mtanti was never going to be loved by the MK masses. He's in the Western Cape. He's not a Zulu. He's got no links to KZN whatsoever, Let's be honest. The one successful party that people claim is a tribalistic party and that runs its organization well is the IFP, because all of its cadres come from KZN in one area. So now you've got an MK party which is deploying people that come from different parts of the country. You know, Floyd, you've got your John Thorpe, who was in the Western Cape, and all
Now,
sorts.
Peter de Villiers.
Exactly. I mean, a whole rugby coach. I mean,
Yeah.
you know. So now people are sitting there saying, Zuma, we've campaigned, we've worked the ground. Do you know how many councillors, Mike, resigned from City of Johannesburg, from the ANC, by the way, before the election? You're talking about your Gorbachevs and all sorts that resigned and went to MK to go and campaign for Zuma, and Zuma kicked them out. Now, people within MK, from what I'm being told, are literally pointing a gun at Zuma, you know, indirectly, and saying that, look, we are ready to collapse this thing if you don't reinstate our own people. Because people feel very angry about the fact that we have worked so hard to grow this party, and you keep on outsourcing people, technically, you know. So Dr. Mtanti does not surprise me at all. It's got nothing to do with workload. This man has been a lecturer for years, Mike. He knew when he was taking on the job that what is he taking on? The third largest party in South Africa. And I heard, who was it again? Was it on, I forgot, one of the other networks, where they said they're arguably the second largest. They are not the second largest. In fact, I do predict that MK's demise has already happened. We see it in by-elections. I stay in Msunduzi, Pietermaritzburg. MK got 57% in 2024 general elections. The last by-election in a township, not in a suburb, they got 38% and ANC beat them. So I do predict ANC will recover lost ground in KZN because they've literally reached the bottom. Let's be honest, right? You can't really go lower than that for them. So they will perhaps get back those few MK, you know, supporters. But MK is losing ground very fast.
Yeah.
Believe me when I say it.
It's staying with the by-elections. We're seeing a bit of a consolidation in the by-elections. We're seeing the ANC definitely recouping a lot of lost ground in by-elections. Is that just because the alternatives are so bad?
True, Mike. True, Mike. I mean, Mike, you have to look. The EFF, MK, all these parties struggle to win wards. There are only two parties in South Africa that win wards. It's the DA and ANC. And that is because people can see an image beyond their leaders. Now, the thing is, the nowadays politics, or these new political parties, have built an image around the leader that you can't really imagine a party without that leader. Hence, when it comes to ward elections or by-elections or voting for a ward councillor, people won't really opt to vote, you know, there because they're looking at the local leaders and they're like, nah, there's no ways. And that's the funny thing that, you know, we've got democracy in this country. You know, it brings just another thought. We've got democracy in this country, but have we produced democratic parties? No. We've got parties that have had one leader, and it looks like they will have that one leader till they die, you know? Yeah. So let's be honest. The only parties that practice democracy in South Africa are DA and the ANC. And the rest are just someone's business. Yeah. And that is a retirement plan.
And I often wonder, with a lot of the media attention that has flowed around the non-political issues, the leadership fights, which have really gone heavily around EFF and MK. It sort of, on the one hand, you could look at it and say, well, you know, all publicity is good publicity. But on the other hand, people are saying, these are not the people I want to run my ward.
True.
If, you know, you go do your circus, we'll watch it.
Yes.
It's just like you would watch a soap opera, but you don't want to live in the soap opera.
True, Mike. Mike, let's be honest again. You've got to go to council, city council. How many councillors do not have matric? You know, in Action SA, I knew of a couple of councillors without matrics. I knew of a couple of councillors without further education, training. They don't have any post-matric qualification. And you ask yourself that these are people that are supposed to be passing laws, are supposed to be, you know, reading financials of the city, are supposed to be speaking about infrastructure and all sorts. So that's why I think even the community itself really can't imagine leaders in certain people, you know. And unfortunately, Mike, I always tell people, if people aren't ready to get into the ring, you will have these criminal syndicates getting into the ring and running the political system.
Because, and we're going to close off with the state of our municipalities, just something you've got first-hand experience of. The root causes.
Mike, firstly, you need to look at management, Mike. City managers are mostly cadre deployments from all parties. Let me just be honest with you. Any party that is inside will just say, here's my person. You look at Johan Metler in the city of Tshwane. Johan Metler, great man in terms of work, but he's on his way out. You know, I've heard about ANC, EFF bringing in their own city manager. You look at CFOs. You look at mismanagement of funds, Mike. How is it, Mike, that in 2023, the Auditor General said there were only 38 municipalities that had a clean audit out of 257? Mike, get that right. Not even 50. 38, Mike. 38. And most of them are run by DA, you know. Which
the
is
ones that passed.
the ones that got a clean audit.
Yeah.
Which shows the government of the day is not really, you know, producing clean audits. But looking at that, Mike, you've got to ask the serious questions, Mike. You've got sewage flowing all over Mfuleni. Why hasn't the municipality been dissolved? You know? You ask these critical questions, Mike. And people are not standing up, honestly. I mean, if I was staying in Mfuleni, trust me, God knows, I would not pay, and I'm so sorry to use the word, but I would not pay for that shit, you know? I mean, really, I would not pay my rates and taxes for such. You know, I look at Tshwane. Today, grass is not being cut in Tshwane. I was receiving a list of complaints from different communities about grass not being cut and people really being angered and saying, what are we paying for? Because now you've got a situation where politicians are so focused on 2026 elections. Now, a big thing, 2026 elections meets what? It meets the ANC's conference, the DA's Congress, even Action SA. So many parties are going to have their conferences and congresses around 2026. So it's not just a fight about making it to a leadership position, but it's a fight about getting votes. Hence, if you look at the new Tshwane administration, a lot of their attention is being taken to townships. Now, the fact of the reality is, if you do go to townships, you'll find that many township ratepayers don't actually pay their rates, which does anger the suburban ratepayers, because they feel like, look, you have taken all the services there, and we, the guys that actually pay, do not get anything. So, Mike, the reality is, everything that we've discussed today is only leading to one thing. There's going to be a possible infight within our country. I don't want to say civil war, but there will be a fight between the haves and the have-nots, because the haves will feel like we are actually keeping this country afloat and we don't get much reprieve. We don't actually get a break, you know. And the have-nots could also fight and say that we are getting too little. You guys have too much. Give us some. And that's because the government of the day has built a culture in our society of freebies, a culture of take everything, it's for free, whatever you want, we'll just give it to you. And that leads to poor service delivery. We've seen it in our healthcare system. We've seen it even when it comes to electricity, how much of a burden that has become to society.
And we've got a government of the day that has remained dedicated to stunting economic growth. Let's be fair. The one time we did have economic growth was under Gear in the mid-2000s, and the party of the day decided to stop it immediately because they were threatened by economic growth. So there's a whole story that needs to play out in South Africa. But, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed our Political Insider series, which we will start on this State of the Nation. Kutle, great job. We'll see you again next week. To everybody that watched it, please support Pace Car Rental and support the State of the Nation. Subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think of the Political Insiders, and we'll see you again next week on Political Insiders on State of the Nation. Thank you.